How's it going, everybody? My name is FaZe Crypto, and welcome to this episode. I'm very confident about the future of decentralized media. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing a lot of these different decentralized components that are leveraging cryptocurrency and using it to provide media for the public. And TRON is really one of those technologies that's leveraging that growing demand. And of course, I'm really excited in seeing all the different things that are coming up in respect to the various developments that are happening. And I think that currently, when we see the position that TRON has itself in, of course, in that number 10 position, I mean, it's above NEO. That's really substantial, especially when you look at the fact that really across the board on all these different technologies right here, we see the fact that, I mean, TRON is where it's at currently, and it is really exciting to see the fact that TRON has managed to maintain itself respectively in accordance with these different, especially in when you consider the current situation that's happening over the past few weeks. I mean, we're witnessing a upward mobility, but of course that doesn't last forever. Cryptocurrency tends to be a very volatile space, so it is really interesting to see how TRON has managed to perform, and I think that there is a really growing positive reputation for this technology as the public consciousness seems to be shifting towards paying attention to these different technologies that are, have the potential to outperform the old leading platforms that used to be performing and providing all these different media and so forth. I mean, you take all the different names like YouTube and Facebook. Clearly, Facebook is a good example of the route that these companies can take that can easily drive them into the ground. They're never really too big to fail because at the end of the day, it's going to be the public decision that's going to determine how these things move forward in the future. And it comes to cryptocurrency, it really is interesting to see how they're able to provide platforms. And of course, when it comes to technologies like Steam, and we've seen with DTube and so forth, these platforms do have the ability to function. They do have the ability to really perform. And of course, it shows in the factors that be. I mean, cryptocurrency has certain places where it can be applied, and those places tend to really show off themselves as we continue to move forward. And I think that there is a growing trend within this sort of space for that sort of media providing content. And of course, there's a bunch of different realms where cryptocurrency has its potential to be applied. It is a huge paradigm shift that's happening right now involving these technologies and seeing where they're headed in the future. But of course, it is interesting to see all the different developments that are happening with TRON. And of course, it is. I would recommend everybody follow, TRON and Justin Sun, the founder of TRON and so forth, on their official Twitters and so forth, because it is really interesting to see and stay up to date on these technologies and have the information directly from the source. I'd also recommend you follow me on my Twitter, of course. It is interesting to be building this community across all these different social media platforms and so forth. And so we'll be providing the link to the Twitter down in the description below. And even if you're not already on Twitter, I recommend that you make one, just because it is a really great resource to gather information regarding cryptocurrencies. And when it comes to crypto, knowledge is definitely power. Knowing something in advance. But I'd also recommend that you always get your information directly from more authoritative sources than just random YouTubers. But of course, I'd also say, remember, disclaimer, standard disclaimer, this video is for entertainment, educational purposes only. The whole purpose of this video is basically just to provide my opinion, and that's exactly what this is, just 100% opinion. So you have to remember, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not your dad. Basically, everybody's responsible for their own decisions that they do or don't make regarding any of these technologies. And, my opinion on TRON is fundamentally positive. I think that my understanding of it is fundamentally data driven, and I think that it's important to maintain a really analytical perspective when it comes to these things, just moving forward and paying attention to the possibilities that are in store for. But I think decentralized web, these platforms that really leverage that sort of potential are really going to see themselves outperforming a lot of these other options in the long run. Of course, it's when it comes to cryptocurrency, it's still very early in the space, and there's a lot of different developments that need to happen, of course. And yeah, it is interesting to see how these developments have been implementing themselves. And of course, in the spirit of providing different opinions, I'm actually going to be including a link to this video in the description. So if you want, you can click the link to Crypto Tone. I'm actually subscribed to this channel, and I think it's important to support, boost up different channels in the community that are really showing really good content and so forth. And yeah, this channel is a 18-minute video, really interesting stuff if you guys are interested in checking out this content. And yeah, all that being said, it really is interesting to see what's been happening with Tron lately. So just taking a quick look at all the different news regarding Tron, I find that looking at the various news articles that are being released involving these cryptocurrencies is a good indicator of the public consciousness and the conversation that's being had. It is interesting to see how the community has been viewing Tron, and basically I'm seeing articles like these from cryptocurrency news, fairly substantial articles, and well, basically they try to be, but I mean, you have to understand at the end of the day that a lot of these different news articles are just trying to get advertisement clicks and so forth. That's why a lot of these websites have you shut off your ad block when you go to use them. And I believe that there's actually a news website there's probably a bunch of them that are having people mine cryptocurrencies when they use those websites and so forth, which is pretty insane when you think about it. That's sort of a mark of the future of cryptocurrency, as well as these different platforms giving users that option and giving them that, basically the power to leverage that sort of. I mean, it goes both ways. I'm sure there's plenty of people who have plenty of reasons to complain about that, and I wouldn't detract from any of those points that people would be making, but it is an interesting concept nonetheless. And it is interesting to see how Tron is really moving forward. And I think the mainnet launch is going to be a really big variable when it comes to moving forward. And it has been interesting to see how these various different platforms have been acting. And I think Tron is, I mean, especially when you consider the fact that it's in that number 10 position, I think that the potential for it to be moving up higher really is there for the technology and as it's been performing lately. I think nobody can really deny that Tron has really shown a lot of the haters that it does have the potential to do a lot of amazing things, but of course it does have a lot of ways to go in regards to moving forward. But it's definitely exciting to see all the progress that's been made. And but of course, remember, I also want to hear what the community has to say. So remember to comment down below. I do read all the comments, and I like to hear the different perspectives that everybody has. And remember to subscribe to the channel and share it to anybody you think might be interested in Tron. And have a good day, everybody. It is always important to pay attention to how Bitcoin has been acting lately. A lot of people love Bitcoin, and then a lot of people really don't care to pay attention to it. They're more interested in the altcoins. However, I think that it's very important to pay attention to Bitcoin. I mean, for obvious reasons. I think anybody who's involved with cryptocurrency for any amount of time understands that whatever happens to Bitcoin is going to happen and send basically shockwaves through the entirety of the space. So it is interesting to see how Bitcoin has been acting, and in that respect, I think that it is interesting to see how the different technologies have been faring up in the light of the current situation with the market cap. And it is interesting to see the ones that have been able to hold their own in respect to the various different things that have been happening. Just looking at today's basically Tron's right up there even still, and this is something that I find is something very important to pay attention to, is the technologies that show up on this list are fundamentally the ones that really get my attention. But I know that there's a lot of different filtration methods that people like to use, but of course I mean, I basically find that it's important to do research into every single cryptocurrency, because you never know which ones are going to have a day where basically they come out of the blue. And in that respect, it is very interesting to see how these technologies technologies have been evolving, and the whole space in general has been moving forward as in general, and in the larger aspect as well. A lot of different components coming together as the public has been getting acquainted to these different technologies and learning how they're going to be acting in the real world. And I think TRON really is front and center when it comes to that, when it comes to the overall trajectory and the possibility for overall basically media and decentralized web is the future is definitely going to be decentralized. So when it comes to Tron, there really are a lot of exciting things that are going on, developing in respect to the technology. I mean, it is really exciting to see it up 10% where it is currently right now. I think that this is in respect to a lot of people who have been paying attention to Tron, and congratulations to everybody who's been on board as far as Tron has been developing and so forth. And it is really nice to see some, of course, I'm sure there's plenty of people out there, especially in this market, who've been, looking forward to seeing Tron really flexing their muscles and so forth. And this is definitely in the light of a lot of the different developments that have been happening within the technology. And definitely really exciting to see all these different possibilities as they've come front and center in respect to the technology.